Thanks, everybody. I'm really glad to be here. I actually love working in Wisconsin. Been working all around the world as a safety consultant, but I actually made the decision in 1987 at 17 years old to leave New York City and go to school at Marquette University because I wanted to go somewhere that would be fun and safe, and I can lose my New York accent too. And I love it. I love it in Wisconsin. I actually got engaged right here. Right there. I got down on my knee and I said, "Would you marry me?" And the first word out of my wife's mouth was no. She said no way because she was excited and surprised, but could you imagine for that 1 second it felt like an eternity. She said no way, and still even no way isn't exactly the first thing you want to hear when you ask somebody. But she was just excited about it. So I'm really glad to be here back in Wisconsin. What I want to do today is piggyback off of what was already said, but I'm going to look at it in a different perspective. See, everyone was talking about the system, and I agree with everything that Rick said. He gave an excellent presentation. Todd, too, also talking about the system. Thank you, Todd, for inviting me here today. And I still believe everything they say. I'm on their team, but sometimes team members don't do the same thing. Right? I mean, if you just think about football, the goal of football is to score a touchdown, right? Isn't that what all the team members is trying to do? No, they're actually not. Like Clay Matthews isn't trying to do that. That's not why he got out there. I mean, sure, he caught an interception this weekend. But the point is to stop other people from doing it, right? So you got safety and you got person side of things. They're assumptions. They're just perspectives. So they're not right or wrong. They're just different perspectives. So I want to see if I can have you learn to have different assumptions. Maybe under certain circumstances, we're going to work on the system. But if we could have that system, teach people in that system, elevate people's personal skills to also reduce suffering, improve quality of living and performance, reduce the likelihood of injury and incidents, wouldn't we want to do that too as part of what the system does? Kind of fill in that extra puzzle piece. How do we teach people to have the skills to make sure that they don't get injured? So that's what we're going to talk about today. For this next 45 minutes, we're going to talk about building safety commitment. And that's the most important thing from my perspective for this hour. How do we build up people's commitment to safety? See, we've got lots of PPE in the 21st century. We've got, flame retardant clothes and hard hats and eyeglasses that are just really very technologically sound. We've got SOPs that are governed by the feds, and also each organization might have their own safety committee. So we got PPE, we got SOPs, but guess what? All that stuff doesn't work unless you have one key ingredient that we barely talk about. Sometimes we give lip service to, but people don't learn the skills of this one thing that when it's missing, PPE, SOPs, even safety committee ideas and training, that stuff doesn't work without the key ingredient of commitment. I mean, people have to be committed, whether we're talking about the frontline worker or even, I think, more importantly, the managers and the supervisors and the leaders who are having an influence on how the organization gets run. Without the key ingredient of people being committed to making sure that the system is safe, it doesn't matter how many PPE you have in your budget and in your closets. It doesn't matter how many SOPs or trainings you put together. People have to be committed to making sure that the organization is run well and that the job is done well. What is commitment? Well, commitment is action aimed in the direction of what you care about, even in the presence of obstacles. You see, if I were to ask everybody to just give me an example of what it means to make a commitment, usually the first thing that pops up, people say, when you get married. If you go and get married, that's when you make a commitment. So people stand, two people who love each other stand on the altar in front of a celebrant, and they look at each other in the eye, and they say, "I do, till death do us part." Now right there, those were just words. That's not the commitment. The commitment starts at the wedding reception. That's where the action happens, right? I mean, you leave the church or the court and then you go to the wedding reception and all your friends are like, "Yo, open bar, come over here, let's do a couple shots." And you got to be like, "No, I'm going to hang out with my newly betrothed. I'm going to act act in the direction of who I care about, even in the presence of you obstacles. That's how you show that you're starting to make a commitment. Yeah, go up on the dais, and when people clink their glasses, smooch each other, meet the in-laws, go out for the first dance, yeah, you could both go over and do your shots with your friends and then go out and dance even more. But the idea is we need action. Just saying I do seems like it's a commitment in the culture. I mean, in the U.S., when we ask people for a definition of what it means to make a commitment, people say getting married is the first thing. But you can't just say it's at the wedding. It's how you act after it. It's action that demonstrates whether you have a commitment or not. And the same thing with safety commitment. You can't just say, yeah, we signed a document. Yeah, we made an oath. Signing documents, having your signature on a piece of paper, that was an action for a few seconds. Making an oath, those were words. Commitment requires action based in the direction of what you care about, even when it's tough. And you see, it's important now for us to be able to help people deal with these obstacles. See, we're handling the obstacles fairly well in safety if we're looking at the external world. Fairly well. I'm not saying it's perfect, don't get me wrong, but since the Industrial Revolution, throughout these decades, the external world is getting safer. It's not perfect, but we're doing a good job with industrial hygiene, putting signs to remind people where they're supposed to be wearing their PPE, having better PPE, making sure people are using their proper tools. Heck, we've got leadership and compliance issues that is also having an effect on the external world, how people work, what the environment is like. We've also got people getting training in safety, certain practices and processes on how to work safely. The external world is being adequately, not perfectly, but adequately taken care of. There's more improvement. But there's an area in the safety world that we have barely even addressed. What about the internal world? What about what's going on between the ears and behind the eyes of people working? That can be a concern. That can be an obstacle to safety. And when we're talking about the internal world, we're talking about things that might pop up for someone during the workday. Distractions happen quite often, actually. Rushing, we feel this need to get her done. Even if there is no deadline, people a lot of times just go for it, even without the proper PPE. I wonder how many of those safety pictures where we kind of put our tongue in our cheek and go, I can't believe a forklift lifted another forklift in order to put a person's ladder on top of it. I wonder if there was really a deadline or let's just get this thing done. Worries and anxiety that come up, people are working because they care about certain things. Like, how am I going to make a mortgage? How am I going to pay for my child's college? How am I going to afford tickets to the next football game? I mean, there are some things that kind of come up in the middle of the workday. Frustrations, interpersonal frustrations, bosses, coworkers, underlings, things we get frustrated about. Sometimes that can get us off our game, so to speak. People daydream or they're unmotivated at times. So these are personal factors that sometimes come up. And we can use behavioral science in order to help that. And so the goal for today is really to understand and improve commitment-based safety. That's what we're going to talk about. And again, a commitment is action aimed in the direction of what you care about, even in the presence of obstacles. Everything I'm about to say is going to be somewhat culturally deviant. At some point while I talk for the next 40 minutes, you might be like, am I really in a safety talk? Because I'm not really going to be talking a heck of a lot about safety per se, but how people learn to change their own behavior and commit to things that are important to them. But I did want to highlight one thing before going into it. I don't want to nerd out and start giving you lots of data. But people who go through specific trainings that integrate the behavioral science that I'm talking about today, in order to improve your commitments, I'm going to turn this into a workshop. Hopefully we'll be able to help you keep better commitments. But people who go through this kind of training end up showing, and there's data for each of these, and if you want the PDF to the articles, I'll gladly send them to you. I'll put my email address up at the end. You go through this kind of training, you make less errors on the job, you have a greater ability at mastering new training, which is pretty good because technology keeps recycling and keeps actually adding more to the worker's tasks. Going from using a welding torch to a carbon arc. When somebody learns that on the front line, they have to really master that new training in order to behave safely. Going through commitment training can actually help those people learn those new skills in a better fashion. gives us an accelerated rate at adopting new work methods, gives people an increased propensity to innovate. Learning how to commit helps you do problem solving on the fly is essentially what we're talking about here. We're also seeing people's mental health getting better once they learn how to commit. Now you might be saying, well, I didn't establish this particular construction company in order to help my workers have better mental health. That's not my goal. But if people do have better mental health, they have better job satisfaction and better performance. So that's a nice side effect. And we see increased work competence when people learn the skills that I'm going to talk to you about over the next 40 minutes to learn how to make better commitments. And so I'm going to bring your attention to the Safety Commitment Plan worksheet. Hopefully folks have them. They were just handed out, put out on the tables a little bit earlier. And we're going to talk about 6 skills. 6 skills. Right up here on the slide, you can see that there's a hexagon right up there, and there are 6 blanks. We're going to start with number 1 over here. It's smack dab in the middle of that paper right there. The first skill is learning how to do stuff. But not just plain old learning how to do stuff like in training, but focusing on the fact that you're going to be doing something, coming to the realization, the skillful realization that not only do I have these abilities, but I'm going to focus on them. I realize that I'm going to be doing them. So we will put together with our workers a to-do list for today. What particular actions, measurable behaviors are you going to do while you're at the work site? Okay, I'm going to wear proper gloves, eyewear, and earplugs. Lift the material bundles with a hoist instead of using my back and my arms for it. Remove the bundling straps with snips instead of turning over those bundling straps and ripping them off. Load the equipment correctly and discard the straps in the recycler. These could be the things that the person will be doing for the next hour or during the entire day. But one of the important skills is being able to learn that the better you codify or just write down what you're going to do, use a checklist, job hazard analysis or job safety analysis, actually codify and put in order or sequence what you're going to be doing and how you're going to be doing it by particular deadlines, that alone really helps performance management. Just instead of just going off memory, instead of just saying, I was trained on what I was going to do and I was trained 3 weeks ago, but I'm just going to do it today. Taking the time and articulating what you will be doing and how you're going to do it. Actually, there are textbooks about that. We call it performance management. Or you can actually read a book called The Checklist Manifesto by Atul Gawande, talking about how important it is to write the things down or at least review them. Not saying everybody who works in a blue-collar situation has to sit there with an index card and writing things down. But a neat thing to do would be figure out what are going to be the things you're going to do for your external world safety actions and put it right there in the middle of this particular worksheet that you're looking at right here. We'd like to be able to articulate it. This worksheet that you have in front of you, what I'd like you to do is think about something that you have to do, you will be doing towards something you're committed to. As a leader, as a student, what are some of the things, measurable actions that you can do at the work site, at school, that you can do? Maybe if you are a student, maybe you can put down there the measurable action of, read 3 articles from peer-reviewed journals a week. Right there. You just described a behavior and a deadline. Maybe somebody is going to put something in there like, I will wear my hard hat and my safety glasses and my steel-toe boots while I am in the plant. We can write them down and we can even get way more specific. But here's the deal. If you're making a commitment, what does that mean? It means you're engaging in action. Action in the direction of what you care about, even in the presence of obstacles. I need to know what that action is. So I would encourage you, right there in the middle of that particular sheet, write something in that to-do list. What is going to be your to-do for today or for this week, given your job, or given your occupation, or given your vocation? What are you going to do? Now, a couple of things. I can give you a PDF for this if you don't want to write down because you're going to photocopy it or something like that. I'll be glad to give you one. Happens to say safety commitment plan worksheet at the top, have a couple of other for leadership commitment plans and just a mindful action plan for people who want to use it for other things like parenting or weight loss, and it's an empirically supported treatment to use these particular types of checklists that I'm talking about for lots of different goals. This particular one is about safety. So we're talking about doing, but there's another thing that we have to talk about. I need to know, in order to help you make a commitment and follow through on it, I need to know what you care about. It's an important thing. It's action in the direction of what you care about. So what are the things that are important to you? Rick was talking about how organizations have values. You do too. People have their own personal values. What is a value? It's a chosen life direction. It's something of meaning to you. It's what adds purpose or vitality to your choices. I mean, they're essentially your broad, desired life consequences. What do you care about in this one life? You get to live one life on this planet, and it's finite. What do you want your life to be about? What do you want your life to be about? What are the things that are important to you? What are the things that make it meaningful? I have a silly question. I know it's silly. In fact, you might even think it's more than just silly, but here's the question for you. Why do you work? Over 50% of you just went, for the money. Yeah, all right, I got it. No, why do you need the money? Oh, gee, wow, the last one was a silly question. This one's a stupid question. But seriously, why do you need the money? Now actually articulate it to yourself. We're not going to turn this into like a group workshop where you articulate it out loud, but think about it. Why do you need the money? Why? Well, so I can afford my rent or my mortgage? Aha. So having a place to live, it sounds like you care about shelter or safety, owning a piece of the planet. That's something you value. That has meaning to you. What else? So I can buy food for my kids. Sounds like you value parenting. You care about raising your children to be healthy individuals. Why else do you need the money? So I can continue to pay off my Harley? Okay, sounds like you care about recreation. When we ask people, we have more than a half hour to do it, and we have talk to work crews like this, we start to figure out that people don't just behave or act certain ways on the job because they have to or for the money. We see if we can link it to the things that are actually meaningful to them. Why do you do this job? And if we can find out what those things are, the why, then we can figure out the how. Then we can figure out what could we do to help influence you to behave the way that's going to be safer for you. As Todd mentioned, I work for Quality Safety Edge. Terry McSween, our CEO, wrote a book called The Values-Based Safety Process. How do we make safety and acting safely, how do we make it values-based? How do we make it this way someone's driven for the purpose of doing this safe action personally? I got this situation I like to talk about. Does anybody know what kind of car this is? 67 Lingo. Holy cow. It always surprises me when someone can look at a car and know the year and the time. It's very cool. My buddy owns one of these cars. I'll tell this story rather quickly. We grew up together in New York. As I mentioned, I'm from New York City, and we were trying to learn how to drive in 1987, 17 years old. You can't start driving in New York until you're 17. And when we drove around New York, we never wore our seatbelts, ever. That's kind of a stupid thing to say in front of a safety crowd if I'm supposed to be a safety expert for the next half hour, but I was 17 years old at the time, and, well, there was no law that said you had to, but 1988 there was. New York state law said you had to click it or ticket. So we wore our seatbelt whenever we thought we might get caught. We're not wearing it. I mean, that was basically it. We drove around that way for a little while, and then I moved to, I went to Marquette and moved to Illinois and got married, opened up a business, made a lot of friends in Illinois, opened up a clinic, opened up a consulting company. And one day, my friend Joey, I learned to drive with, he said, "Why don't you come back to New York? Come on, visit." And I said, "All right, well, I'm going to do that." He says, "When you come, I've got a surprise for you." I said, "Well, what's the surprise?" He says, "If I tell you, well, it's not going to be a surprise." I get to LaGuardia and I go to the arrivals area, and I don't have to see this surprise first. I hear it, rum, 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 right, coming around the block. And here I am with my suitcase, getting ready to get in. He pulls up, opens the trunk, give each other a hug, put the stuff in the trunk, and I get in the car, slide into the passenger seat, and I start to look around and I'm looking around for the seatbelt, and he's looking at me, and he starts calling me a couple of names that I'm not going to mention here, but they're the kind of friendly things that you would say only if you're from New York to your friend. And I said, I'm looking for the seatbelt. And then he called me a whole bunch of other names that you're not supposed to call your friends, because he said, you don't understand. I said, yeah, I don't understand. I would like to wear a seatbelt. He goes, no, we don't have to wear a seatbelt in this car. It's a 67 Chevelle. We don't have one in here. It's just not in the car. I said, well, I'd really like to wear one. And he said, don't worry about it. I said, well, aren't we going to get a ticket? He said, don't worry about it. We're grandfathered in. If we get pulled over and we're not wearing a seatbelt, we're not going to get in trouble. I said, I still think I should wear a seatbelt. He goes, I'll tell you what. Even if we get pulled over and we get a ticket, which we won't, I'll pay it. So right there, he's taken out all of the reasons on why I might engage in safety compliance. Safety compliance is no longer an issue. This is grandfathered in. I don't have to comply to the rules, the SOPs, the laws, the click it or ticket policy. I don't have to, but I still wanted to. Why? Because of what I care about. Because I have a family. I have a wife in Illinois. I have new friends. I opened up a clinic. I have coworkers. I have employees. I opened a consulting company. I have things that I care about that are meaningful, purposeful, vital to me. So even though I didn't have to, because the authority figures would say I do, I don't have to anymore. I don't have to comply, but I'm still committed to behaving safely. So the question I have for you really is, as an individual, what do you truly care about, believe to be vital, and find meaningful in your life? One way we can answer something like that is to just answer a question like this. If you won a Lifetime Achievement Award, what personal qualities would you like to be recognized for in the award speech? If someone's going to recognize you in 5 years and give you a Lifetime Achievement Award, or for the students for graduation award, when you get out of school and you're at your celebration and someone's going to say stuff about you, what do you want them to say about you? What's meaningful and vital to you? They know by looking at the way you behave that you care about certain things. We need to help everybody essentially clarify their own values. I mean, that's what we're after here. Seeing if people can say, I know I only live one life, and I want my life to be filled with behaviors that are critical to me. I want to be a helpful person. I want to be an innovative person. I care about a life of adventure. I want to be a loving person or patriotic. What are those things for you? See, we can't teach that outright at the workplace. We essentially have to say, what's purposeful in your life, and can we link that to your choices at work on how you behave? Safety is a value. I mean, it is something that you can make meaningful in your life and influences you to behave certain ways. So what we're asking essentially is, can you clarify it for yourself? Can you articulate what you want your life to be about? That's the answer to the question, what I care about. So if you go to this part of that safety commitment worksheet, you can actually make a safety declaration. A lot of times organizations will work with me with this and we change it. But you could make a safety declaration because of the health and the health of others. It's important to me. I am willing to address external and internal world obstacles that jeopardize safety and to work in a manner that reflects safety as my top value. That's the safety declaration. An organization or a work group can make that together. But then how about your personal ones? Describe why you work and why you aim for safety. What's personal to you? I've worked with organizations all around the country. A few of them actually, lots of other continents as well, and there's always these, work safely so you can go home to your family tonight. That's one good value. Great family values. But some people, they're lonely, they're just not married, they don't have kids, but there are lots of things that they live for. So yeah, we can capitalize on family values, but personal values. Maybe they care about so many other things that would help them make the right choice at certain times. Talked about 2 out of the 6. I'm going to go to this one, accepting. This is the hardest one to talk about, especially if I only got 25 minutes to talk about the other 4. I'm going to make this succinct, but hopefully it's impactful for you. What we're talking about with acceptance is, can you learn to accept what happens internally? Emotions, sensations, urges, thoughts, those kinds of things. Now, you might be saying, holy cow, this guy's talking about emotions in a safety presentation. A lot of people get uncomfortable when I do that. But that kind of psychological state can have an impact on your behavior. I mean, that's just a truism. That doesn't have to be proven. How you feel, what you're thinking, what's going on with your urges and your emotions does have an influence on how you behave. Now, I'm not saying accept the things on the external world. If something's wrong and you can fix it, please do. Don't accept dangerous situations. Don't accept risky situations. I'm talking about accepting the things that happen internally. But we're not taught that. To have the skill to just accept that things are happening internally and still work appropriately anyway, that's a skill that needs to be built up. We don't get that kind of training. Just even from our parents or in school or in health class or gym class, we don't learn how to just, I don't feel like going to work today, but I'll go anyway. Yeah, everyone's kind of got that one down, right? But there's a lot of other things that come up like, it's a little too hot for me to wear my hard hat in here. If we can engineer it out to make it cooler in here, please do that. And if we can't, what are we going to do with that sensation? Can we still behave the right way in the presence of that particular sensation? When you're irritated at somebody and they're doing the wrong thing and you're frustrated with them and you're too irritated to give them feedback, you're putting that person in danger. And depending upon what kind of job this is, if it's linked, you're putting yourself in danger. Can you deal with that frustration? Can you just accept the fact that you're frustrated and do the right thing anyway? But we don't get taught to have that kind of skill. Heck, we're taught to have the skill to really just, can't you just be happy? You know, I mean, we're taught that pretty early in our life, to get rid of certain negative emotions or don't deal with them and just be happy about it. Right? I mean, even in the womb, prior to all of us being born, this kind of influence from the culture is already present for us. I know this because I walk up to women when I can see that they're pregnant and I have this question for them. Before I ask the question, I make sure that they're pregnant. And once I know that, I say, what do you want, a boy or a girl? And about 30% of the time, the woman says, I don't care if it's a boy or a girl, I just want it to be happy. Like, happy all the time? Just happy all, you don't want them to know the patchwork of human emotions? You don't want them to know, righteous anger about some stuff, or, sadness when the home team loses, and when the kid finally pops out and the baby's laying there in its bucket, its car seat with the handle on it, and it's kicking his legs and stuff like that. If Uncle Frank walks by and sees the baby there, he goes, such a good baby. And whenever I pantomime Uncle Frank, he's holding a long neck bottle of beer. I have no idea, I don't know why I do that. But if Uncle Frank walks by the baby when it's crying and fussing and having a bad time, he'll just turn like this. He won't say anything, won't make fun of it, but it doesn't get called good. It doesn't get reinforced. Kids are just, it's not called good when they're crying. I mean, it's still a good baby. It's still a good baby even if it's crying. I'd say it's a great baby. Even without the ability to use language yet, it can communicate to the caregivers, yo, I got a load in my pants. And if someone doesn't change me soon, I'm gonna have a sore bottom. I can go on for hours of examples throughout our lifespan. We are usually getting the message that certain types of emotions aren't good and you should just get rid of it and don't really deal with it. I mean, we're getting this message all the time. How many times do you hear in the day, can't you just be happy about this? Oh, what are you getting mad at me for? Don't get angry at me. Oh, there. Don't be sad. What are you nervous for? Don't be nervous. And we get this all the time. And this is somewhat problematic because we're thinking that just because we're having a certain type of feeling that we're supposed to be governed by it or get rid of it before we act appropriately. No, you're not going to be happy all the time. You're not going to feel like doing the same thing. You're not going to feel like communicating all the time. But if you value certain things, can you accept the way that you feel? Can you just accept that it's there and still give people feedback and still wear the uncomfortable PPE? Can you still be frustrated and do the right thing anyway? There's a part of the world where they still hunt monkeys for food. There's a really good example of accepting. What they do, these hunter-trappers, they put banana chips on the inside of these hollowed out gourds. And when the monkey puts its hand in to get it, gets a banana chip in its hand, tries to pull its hand out, and it can't get out because it's holding on to the banana chip. And it's trying to pull it out. Well, guess what? This gourd is tied to a vine that's tied to a tree. And when the hunter-trappers see this happen, they hoot and holler, and the monkey starts running away, but its hand is still in this because it's holding on to this. And as it runs, it just starts spinning around the tree until, boom, it's right up against the tree like this, and on the top of the head, it's monkey fricassee for the tribe that night. And the monkey could have actually not had to have that happen. Just accept the loss. Can you accept things didn't work out your way? Can you just accept not getting this banana chip right now? For the sake of something much more important, can you just accept that things didn't work out perfectly in this situation? I'm not saying accept external, but sometimes you just want to control your emotions and you can't. Just accept that it doesn't always work out that way. Allow yourself to acknowledge any emotions you're having without trying to control the emotions. Be willing to simply have those emotions while moving forward with safe, productive actions. I'm going to go on to another one, noticing. Noticing is the same concept or function as accepting your emotions, but it's about noticing your thoughts. See, what you think, what happens between your ears and behind your eyes has a significant impact on how you behave. Words are really powerful, and they're automatic. You can't help but think certain things. You can't even help but think certain, maybe potentially unsafe thoughts. They're not the worker's fault. The world around them, the system, influences the person to think this way. So that's why I'm not into the blame the worker mentality. And I'm a person who wants to help the worker as the primary target of the way I'm doing it, at least with the commitment training. Why? Because the world around us influences us to behave or think certain ways. You're not in control of your thoughts. You're not. You honestly are not in control of your thoughts. The world around you, the situation influences you to think certain things. That's why we got to change the system. That's why we got to change the external environment, because you can't help but what you think. See, here's the trippy thing. I know what you're going to think in 30 seconds, and I'm a perfect stranger. I don't even know most of your first names. I know what you're going to think in about 20 seconds. You've known you your whole entire life. You have no idea what you're going to think in 12 seconds. But me, perfect stranger, I know what you're going to think in 8 seconds. Ready? As long as you speak English as a first language, I know what you're going to think in your mind in 3 seconds. Mary had a little... Now I know what you just thought. The world just presented something, and internally you had this thought. This time, don't have that thought. I'm going to tell you, for an entire 7 seconds after I say that phrase, don't have that thought. It's a bad thought, so don't have it, all right? Ready? Here it comes. Mary had a little... 7 seconds is up. If you didn't think lamb during that entire 7 seconds, please let me know how you did it. Anybody willing to? Yeah.
I named other animals.
Okay, so name one of the animals.
Horse.
Okay, so you went from a lamb, which is a 4-legged mammal found on a farm, all the way to a 4-legged mammal found on a farm. Okay, all right, good. Thank you. Right. So sometimes it's hard to do that, distracting thoughts. And essentially, if we had time to really check in on it and go, and what happened in the 8th second? A lot of people are just going to say, well, I said, oh, look, I didn't think lamb the entire time. Just even checking in on yourself to say, I distracted myself from having this thought, I did something to control my mind, essentially brings us back to it. So it's hard. Thoughts are sticky. The world influences us to think certain ways. And thoughts are powerful. Words are powerful. They have an effect on our behavior. Here, check this out. What I got right here, just talking to you here. What I got right here is a cutting board, fancy cutting board that I got from Bed Bath & Beyond. And what I have right here is a really super ripe September lemon that I got from the produce mart, one big one. Thud it right down there on my cutting board. And what I've got right here is a sharp knife that I'm going to slice right through this thing. And as soon as I cut into it, it starts to spray out some citric acid so folks can start smelling this lemony freshness from this super ripe lemon. I'm going to slice it all the way down, and as I do, it starts to splay out this big puddle of lemon juice on my cutting board. I get it all the way down, and starts to rock back and forth inside that puddle. And I'm going to take this half, and I want you to take this half. And what we're going to do is hold this lemon in our hand. You can feel the lemon juice dripping between your fingers and down your wrist, and put that lemon right up against your lips and squeeze that lemon into your mouth and start tasting that sour lemon juice as it goes into your mouth. Feel the tingle of the lemon juice and it goes in your mouth. You can feel it on the sides of your cheek. Squeeze it again and really drink down that lemon juice. And now with your whole tongue, lick the rind. Now, how many people are salivating more now than they were maybe 4 minutes ago? Yeah, most of you are. And here's the trippy thing. As far as I can see, there's not a lemon in the room. There are no lemons in the room. There's no citric acid actually being dropped on the receptor sites of your tongue, eliciting the salivary response. That was my psychology nerd coming out right there. There's just words. So words are really powerful. Oh my gosh. You can't help but think certain things. The world sets you up to think certain things, and they're powerful enough to affect us that way. I mean, I just talked about lemons. We can imagine this in a safety situation, right? I mean, sometimes the world around us is going to affect us to think certain things. Maybe the boss is upping the game on the deadlines. Maybe there's not a lot of PPE around, or the equipment's not showing up at the right time. We react to that mentally, verbally, language-wise. We just can't help it. Jack and Jill went up you can't help but think hill. Under certain more complex situations, you have more complex thoughts, and the words are powerful. I talk about lemons for a little while, you start salivating. What I'm going to do here, just because I only have about 12 more minutes to talk about a lot of stuff, I'm just going to ask you to see if you can embrace the concept of noticing by just repeating after me. If everyone does it, nobody's got to be embarrassed, okay? So all you got to do is repeat after me. If you're willing to do it, I'd really appreciate it. All you got to do is repeat after me. Ready? Lemon, 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 lemon. Louder. Lemon, 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 lemon. Double time. Lemon, 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 lemon. What happened to the word? Yeah, it just becomes, it sounds like an arbitrary sound. It sounds like a broken copier machine. Is anyone like drooling a whole lot? Why not? You just said lemon a whole bunch of times. I thought words were powerful. Aha. They don't have to be powerful. We can learn a skill called noticing. We can learn it to just have a thought. Just have it without following through on it. Like, here's an example. I'm having the thought, I can't raise my right hand. No matter what I do, I couldn't possibly raise my right hand. Well, that was words. That was language. You might be saying, well, you're saying it out loud. Now, it's not a thought. Okay, I'll think it now. You can have a thought and not necessarily behave that way. You know, like if I don't raise my right hand in 2 seconds, I'm going to die in a fiery car crash on the way home to Chicago tonight. All right. It's just my larynx moving. It's just my tongue and my lips. Just because the language is there doesn't mean you have to follow through on it. Can you notice? Can you just notice that thoughts arrive? Working with one guy who was once at the top of a ladder, and he was supposed to be changing the hi-hat lights. It was just a little too far, and he didn't have enough time. Boss should have given him enough time. Definitely should have had a lot of other external environment changes in his life, but still, when he's at the top of the ladder, his mind just went, I'll just reach. Don't get me wrong. There are other external things and management things that should be done first. But wouldn't it be neat if this person on the top of the ladder has that final bastion of safety is him thinking clearly? It's the final step. If it goes through the Swiss cheese all the way to this person making the choice, yeah, something needs to be blocked way earlier in several different domains, but that's the last bastion of this person behaving unsafely. I'll just reach. What if he could have just thought, oh my gosh, look at that, I'm having another thought. I noticed that I had an unsafe thought. What I'm going to do is climb down and move over. It's a skill. It's a skill to be able to understand, is it possible for you to simply notice your thoughts? And it is possible. People can learn it. Is this a skill that we could teach workers? I think so. Next one's going to be just breezing through it as efficiently as possible. Imagine this was a quiz that you had to take, the easiest fill-in-the-blank exercise in the entire world. Go ahead and flip that safety commitment worksheet over, and imagine you're actually writing this out. I am, and then fill it in. 1, 2, and 3. You don't have to turn it in. You won't have to read it out loud for everybody. Don't copy off the person next to you. That's really weird. See, I would write, I'm a psychologist, I am standing, I am happy. It's pretty easy, so imagine you're already done. What I'm going to ask you to do is cross the first one out. I wrote, I'm a psychologist. That's not all I am. I mean, I got a bunch of knucklehead interns down in Chicago doing something probably illegal or unethical, and I'm going to lose my license. So when that happens, I'll still be me. I'm standing. Yeah, I am. So I'm still me. So I'm not the roles that I play, and I'm not the behaviors that I do. That's not me. I'm not even my emotions. I am happy. I'm happy now. I'm hanging out with fellow professionals, talking about something I'm passionate about, but when I get into that fiery car crash on the way home tonight, I might not be happy then, but I'll still be me. So you're not your emotions. You're not your roles. You're not your behaviors. You're just you. And a lot of the times people will describe themselves certain ways that has an impact on their behavior. And it's not always right. Somebody saying, I don't need extra training anymore. I am a veteran at this job. Like that self-identity could influence them to not get any more training. Or even the worst thing you could probably say under certain circumstances, and we're going to move on after I say this, but saying to yourself, I am safe. Not you. You're just you. You're I am. If you cross everything out, what's still on the screen up there? I am. Period. That's a full sentence. Subject, verb. Your whole sentence. I am. You're just you. Describing yourself certain ways, especially I am safe, when you're working in a dynamic situation, that's actually not the best thing to do. So we work with workers in order to help become a little bit better committed by not describing themselves in ways that could be deleterious to their actions. Can you notice that you're not your thoughts, you're not your emotions, sensations, or your roles? These are just experiences that you have. I am. Before you do something, before you do this to-do list down here, notice if you're being influenced by any unhelpful descriptions. Let go of anything unhelpful that you're believing about yourself. And then finally, here now. Here now is a skill. Learning how to be in the present moment is really important. Learning how to be contacting the here and now is a skill. See, 47% of the day you are not thinking about what you're doing. 47% of the day your mind takes you to the there and then instead of the here and now. 47% of the day you're thinking about the future or the past. Have you ever been driving down the road and you know where you're going because you've been there before and you're motivated to get there because maybe you're going to a friend's house who you've been to before and they're having a party. So you're motivated to get there because you're going to a party. And I could tell by looking around the room, you folks like to party. So you're motivated to get there and you've been there before. But then all of a sudden you're just driving down the road and oh snap, I passed right by the exit. I can't believe I passed right by the exit. I've been there before. I'm so psyched to get there. I was even thinking about these cool jokes I was going to tell and these anecdotes I was going to have at the party. I'm thinking about the there and then. I missed the here and now. I missed the exit. And you say, oh, the Wisconsin Department of Transportation sucks. The exit sign must have fallen down. No, it was there. It was there. I mean, the external cues for action can be in your here and now, and you miss it because 47% of the day you're thinking about something other than what you're doing. We got to change that, and you can actually. What I'm going to ask you to do, if you're willing to do it, You don't have to do it if you don't want to. What I'm going to ask you to do is just another experiential exercise, group exercise, if you're willing to. I want you to just go ahead and take a nice, full, clean, deep breath, and as you exhale, if you're willing to, close your eyes or affix your gaze on some part of the room. And I'm going to invite you to do something, and it won't take too long. I'm going to ask you to simply notice what it feels like to sit in your chair. I'm going to ask you to make a commitment to engage in the behavior. What you'll be doing is sensing the chair right here, right now. But I'm going to ask you to do this one single solitary behavior exclusively. Just sense the chair. Notice what it feels like as the back of the chair is up against your back, your legs up against the seat. And stay in the moment with me right here, right now, committed to doing this one single solitary behavior exclusively. If you had some thoughts, I can't wait for lunch, notice that your thoughts went to the there and then. Maybe you had a judgment, this is silly. Notice that your mind gives you that. You can't help it. But bring yourself back to the sensation of the chair. If you got another distraction, bring yourself back to the chair. Bring yourself back, here and now, sensing the chair, that commitment. Now go ahead and take a nice, full, clean, deep breath and exhale. When you do, open your eyes. What we just did was something that was really popularized. It's an idea that's been around for hundreds of years. It's been popularized over the last, decade, called mindfulness. You might be saying to yourself, this sounds like some Oprah bullshit. Okay. I got you. But what we're doing is we're trying to build up a skill. Not necessarily mindfulness. I'm not asking you guys to go like Om or wear yoga pants. I don't want to see some of you folks in yoga pants. All right. I don't need you to get a yin yang tattoo, shave your head and start wearing purple, robes and stuff like that. I'm not trying to say, let's start doing meditation all the time. No, there's a skill. We might want to call it in the industry situational awareness. What if you could learn the skill to be in the present moment a little bit better? Using this kind of exercise, and I've got dozens of other ones, as if it were an exercise. Just be mindful of the chair, mindful of your breathing for 1 minute a day. And then next week, 2 minutes. And then let's go crazy and up it, double it again. 4 minutes, spend 4 minutes a day, every day, in 3 weeks, building it up to there, so this way you can just get into the skill of I'm paying attention to now. Maybe that'll help us stop driving by those cues for action. Think about how that might dovetail to safety. Just because we only have a couple of minutes, think about how situational awareness is a skill and it can be built up and strengthened so people don't miss cues for action in their world. Doing these kinds of exercises, good enough for these people. I have interviews where each one of these people, who you probably know some of them, Phil Jackson, winningest coach in North America, Jerry Seinfeld, best TV show ever on TV Guide. These guys won the belt in the UFC, probably heard of the Beatles, if you love them or hate them, Howard Stern. All of these guys in one way or another have said, yeah, I'm good at what I do because I do these kinds of mindfulness exercises on a regular basis. This is the most important part. I'm not talking about mindfulness or meditation because I want to turn people into Eastern philosophers, but for something else really important. The only time you can behave is now. You can't behave tomorrow. You can't behave yesterday. You can't behave in 5 minutes or 5 minutes ago. Now's the only time you can behave. 47% of the day you're not thinking about now. Think about what that is like for safety. Here we go. The only time you can be safe is right now. So we got it right there. Center your situational awareness on what you're doing in this work environment. Notice what is happening here and now. Let go of distracting thoughts that are not in your present control. We went through 6 skills. They all interrelate with each other. And it builds up what we call commitment. What does it mean? I mean, this is basically the ending. I am here now, accepting the way I feel, noticing my thoughts while doing what I care about. What would the workforce be like with this attitude? What would it be like if people could walk into work and say, I am here now, accepting the way I feel, noticing my thoughts while doing what I care about? What if this were just an implicit attitude for everybody who's on the job? What if it was your implicit attitude for that thing you wrote in the middle of that sheet for doing? What if your to-do list about becoming a better student or a better leader of safety or a better frontline worker? What if you can say, I'm here now, accepting the way I feel, noticing my thoughts while doing what I care about? And well, we use the Safety Commitment Plan worksheet in order to assist with this. It's a checklist. Did you notice the checklist function on the side? Let's actually go through it. And you can read along. Notice if you're being influenced by any unhelpful self-descriptions. Center your situational awareness on what you're doing. Allow yourself to acknowledge any emotions you're having. Prepare to simply notice thoughts that arise during the work task. This is the work task that I'm committing to doing right now. This is why I'm doing it, and it's personally relevant and meaningful to me. I mean, essentially what we're doing is we're building up commitment. And what is commitment? Action aimed in the direction of what you care about, even in the presence of obstacles. Does it really work? Yeah, I told you. I'll send you the PDFs. When we train people in this, these are the ultimate outcomes. But what I thought was even cooler is I worked with a Boilermaker crew a couple of years ago, did this. None of the people I worked with had a high school education. The average education level was about 10.6. Okay, 6 months into 10th grade, they all, on average, quit. But they made out hard hat stickers with these concepts right on the outside of them. And they give it to people when they saw them being mindful, values-based, accepting. This is a concept that I think is influential on people who might be, during the workplace, dealing with this internal world set of distractions and issues that could impede us from following through on our commitments. What if the workforce can engage in action in the direction of what they care about, even in the presence of certain types of private obstacles? So if you want more information, I'll be glad to send it to you. I did write a book about it called Building Safety Commitment. And if you want more information, you got my email address up there. And you can actually find, if you go to buildingsafetycommitment.com, there's free tools that you can go to, buildingsafetycommitment.com. By free, I mean like really free, not internet free, where you got to give me a username and a password and then I spam you for the next several years. I mean like Napster free. You know, like you just go there, you can just download the stuff all you want. So it's at buildingsafetycommitment.com. And my email address is right up there. So I appreciate everybody's attention. Sorry I cut into lunch by 3 minutes, but I appreciate everybody's attention today. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks.